Yes.
We'll move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's passed. Next item, 601C, Sierra Buckeye lease, Rockledge.
Yes, Sierra Buckeye is a company that we've dealt with in the past. Has entered into a lease on private property for the deep oil and gas rights, Rockledge properties, for 16.874 acre tract. It's approximately 1.5 miles north of Dover Dam. The district sold the tract in 1955 and reserved 1/2 of the oil and gas rights at that time. So I've talked to a representative of Rockledge, private property owner, the surface owner, and they have asked us to, they would ask us to enter into this lease. Sierra is proposing a $4,500 an acre payment, 20% royalty interest, which is market rate for full interest leases in the area. And in order to, this is a little bit unique, in order to line up with the Rockledge lease, we're proposing that we would only lease from the bottom of Clinton, actually the Queenston Formation down to including the base of the Black River Formation. So that's a portion of the deep rights, so that our lease would match up with the other oil and gas lease. And that would separate the Rose Run and Beacontown formations, which are below the Utica Formation. So due to the fact that the surface owner has executed the lease, and they would be in favor of us entering into a lease, I would recommend enter into a lease, and it specifically would state that our lease does not give any rights to the surface. It would be simply up to the surface owner as far as any activity on that surface. Similar to a lease we've entered into before.
Does the surface owner need to have our small piece in the system in order for his lease and royalties to work for him?
Well, the oil and gas producer would have to have our rights in order to produce this gas, yes. Without that, this is going to be a larger unit. This is going to fit into a larger unit. I mean, obviously, we are going to drill on this piece. So, I guess as small this piece is, if we refused, it's quite possible the company could go to the state of Ohio and have it force pulled into the unit. So one way or another, they would have to have our mineral rights in order to move forward.
Well, with the surface owner asking us to participate that way, I think we should proceed to do that. So I will move approval.
Moved by Mr. Parham,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Worsman. Further discussion?
Mr. Boyle, either after the vote or just now, I just thought this might be a good way to illustrate the difference in why we were talking about large leasing, what the Ohio Environmental Council and some of today's speakers were talking about, the distinction that since they used my name, to explain different variations. So, do that now? Yes.
Right. Relevant.
As you already had discussed, with this particular one, there's a different surface owner. The mineral interests are split down at 8,000 foot level, and it can prevent someone else from exercising their private property rights, or could could create a mandatory pooling situation, which expends resources, I would think, unnecessarily. And so, to subject this transaction to a public meeting would be quite cumbersome, I think, and also to the landowner. I mean, why should a private landowner have to attend a public meeting to defend why they should have the right to develop their personal private property rights? So I think that this is one of those distinctions, just so you are comfortable in understanding why I had that previous distinction. What Darren and Mark and I have worked on is as far as involving more public input. We're talking major reservoirs, a whole reservoir or a part of a reservoir, and so that we can hear from the public, have input from the public as to what our recommendation may be to you at a given point in time as to how a major leasing should happen.
Is that in a draft stage? Are we going to get copies of that?
It is just in the draft stage. Darren, how would we describe it like that, I guess?
I would say it would be draft. We've been discussing it with many of the stakeholders, some of whom were here today, some of whom we've had meetings with and had some good feedback on. We're still getting feedback.
But as we saw Wednesday night, it did not stay on topic about how to make a lease at Seneca or water sales at Seneca better. It evolved into why the state of Ohio should not allow this procedure, and that's outside of our responsibility and authority. So our first experiment, Darren can cover that, was mixed bag, I guess.
Right. And we have that on the agenda
Yes.
as well.
Okay, can we move to a vote on this?
Sean, if in the event we would say no and they would go into mandatory pooling, would that change the percentage rate of the royalty oil or the signing rate?
We've never been in that position. My understanding is that I don't know if we receive a signing.
It becomes a, yeah, it becomes almost a last-minute negotiation just before a technical review and advisory council to the Division of Oil and Gas negotiation. The original purpose of mandatory pooling was when it was between companies, between lease owners, mineral rights owners, which are drilling companies, was the initial intention. It had exploded a few years ago due to urban drilling program and multiple parcel owners. And so most cases it's solved just prior to a decision by a commission appointed at the state level to determine what makes most sense. But it's all based upon the principle that as property owners, you should be able to develop your sticks of your bundle of sticks that you own, whether public or private. You should be able to develop that if there's a responsible regulatory program. And so that's what the case is. And so it's based upon the principle of avoiding waste, the waste of minerals, for instance. And so mineral production has a special place all the way back to common law from Great Britain, that we need to develop these minerals for our own existence, so to speak, and for our own energy needs in a very responsible way. So it's all based upon the principle that we should be able to develop the minerals first, and so the negotiations can take place as far as what the percentage would be. But there's no set, there was not previously anyways, I don't know if some of this has changed with the horizontal permitting, but there's no set percentage that's set. But usually it goes to whatever the highest percentage is of that pool that's being proposed for a permit.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's passed. 601D, AEP easement, Hazard Lake.
We've got